Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. And we are turning back to our 101 series tonight. We are going to be talking a little bit about Pirate Night, one of those nights that's on most sailings with Disney Cruise Line. And to do that, I'd like to welcome back to the show a good friend of the show, Frank. And today, first time ever appearing is his beautiful wife, Karen. How are you guys tonight?
We're good. Thanks, dude.
Yep. Nice to be here.
Well, it was fun finally meeting you guys. I think it was it this year or last year? I'm losing track of when things happened anymore, but down in Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I think it was last year. It's been a while.
So that was a good time kind of catching up over it. And I'm totally drawing a blank. I should know this because he's a pilot, right?
It's the pilot from Jock Lindsey from Indiana Jones.
Jock Lindsey's hangar bar. So before we jump into it, what are some of your guys' favorite places down there in Disney Springs besides Jock Lindsey's?
We like Art Smith's Homecoming. That's a pretty neat place. And Morimoto's really good for Asian food. I think those are a couple of our favorite places, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I like Blaze too.
Oh yeah, the pizza. Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah, they make really good pizza. We stopped there last time we were down there before Halloween on the High Seas cruise. So that's the first time we've been to Blaze Pizza. The kids loved it. Especially
since you can it's your little pizza. You get whatever your heart desires on there. So it makes everybody happy that way.
Did you guys ever watch Seinfeld by any chance? I'm going to go completely off the rails here.
Once in a while. I wasn't a religious viewer of it, no.
I watched it quite a bit.
Do you remember the one where Kramer wanted to do the pizza place where it's like, you make the pizza, you do your own dough and everything like that, and you put it together? And I can't remember what he called it, but it's kind of Blaze's reaching on that level. So I always think of Kramer when I go there. So, all right, well, let's jump in tonight. We are going to do a little one-on-one show talking about Pirate Night. I tried to do a little bit of background as to when Pirate Night started with Disney Cruise Line. Obviously, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? As far as, sailing in the Caribbean, Pirates, the ride has always been a big mainstay at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I know it wasn't on the first sailings because I went back and looked at Scott Sanders' blog to try and find out. I know the first sailings, they have no mention of it. Do you guys have any idea when they started Pirate Night?
I don't know because, they've had it as long as we've been on Disney Cruise Line, although it hasn't been, since the beginning. But I think you're right. It seems like with the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and then the other pirate things they've done, like Peter Pan and stuff like that, it's something that I think sort of makes sense.
So just kind of thinking about Pirate Night itself, the first 3 cruises we went on, they didn't even have Pirate Night. So I'd heard about Pirate Night and everything else. What is it about Pirate Night that excites you guys? What is it that makes, and we'll get into kind of like how you guys celebrate a little bit later on, but what is it about Pirate Night that excites you guys?
I don't know. I think the thing I like the most is just how into it so many people are. There are people with these really elaborate costumes that they've obviously put a lot of work into. And it's just a lot of fun to see them and all the different things that they do.
Same thing for me. There's so many different interpretations of pirate. You can go all out over the top. I'm a fashion pirate and I just stepped off of my fabulous boat and I own the world down to rags, a black eye and a scruffy beard. And it's great.
Yeah.
Lots of variety.
I'm not sure, Frank, if you know this, but it seems like it's almost like now they have, Star Wars Day at Sea and Marvel Day at Sea. And I think that kind of takes it to a whole nother level because it's kind of the whole day, whereas Pirate Night kind of starts off in the afternoon and when they change the music on the ship and people start getting ready for it. And there's some different themed events we can talk about here in just a little bit as well. But in my mind, I kind of think of like this is like the precursor, which brought about almost Marvel Day at Sea and Star Wars Day at Sea to having the, kind of that themed day on the cruise.
Yeah, I think you're right. And as I think back on different pirate nights on cruises we've been on, a lot of times it's a port day as opposed to Marvel Day at Sea or Star Wars Day at Sea, which are sea days. So yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of times the stuff doesn't really get going until kind of the afternoon when people start getting back from whatever they're doing on shore.
So let's just turn into what Pirate Night is, I guess. So the first thing I guess we could mention, and like I said, the first 3 cruises, we didn't even have Pirate Night on it because our first cruise was to Alaska. Our next one was to Norway. So it's not necessarily on all the cruises. I know the Alaska sailings, I was just reading in the right before we started here in the unofficial guide, the reason is due to the noise for the wildlife up there. And when we went to Norway and also on our Northern European cruise that we did, it was all Frozen themed. And I'm not sure if they ran Pirate Nights before, but with obviously the advent of Frozen kind of fits in those kind of scenarios. And so they have a Frozen kind of evening instead.
Yeah, and that's what we had on our Alaska cruise. They didn't have a Pirate Night. They had a Frozen evening. But I think all the cruises that we've been on in the Caribbean have had a Pirate Night. And the one cruise that we did one of the Canada New England cruises, and they had a Pirate Night there on that one as well.
So, well, let's kind of turn into what Pirate Night is. Like I said, it kind of starts about the middle of the afternoon or so. They start changing the music up, kind of more themed towards the Pirates of the Caribbean music rather than the Disney kind of music that they have in the background normally. So they kind of starts off with that. What are some of the goodies that you find in your stateroom, Karen?
They put out little pirate bandanas that are red with Mickeys on them, I think. Yeah, Pirate Mickey on
Pirate
there.
Mickey, right?
Gosh, what else?
Yeah. So you see some people, that basically becomes their costume, is they find interesting things to do with their pirate bandana. I actually made a pocket square out of it once because on one of our cruises, we were going to Remy on Pirate Night. So I was wearing a suit jacket and I just made a little pocket square out of my pirate bandana for that night.
Yeah, that was great, actually. Sometimes it's just they wrap it around their wrist. Sometimes that's, in their hair somehow. But yeah, it's cute.
And then the other thing is that the gift shops sell a lot of little pirate accoutrements. So you can get your plastic sword or your eye patch or, parrot that sits on your shoulder, those kinds of things. If you're wanting to sort of get a little bit more to the costume, or if you didn't bring much anything, there's always stuff that you can get there.
And unfortunately, that's been our family. I keep saying that we're going to bring stuff to get dressed up. We totally missed it the first night. The first cruise, I totally forgot about it. So we were one of the, I don't know if it's like the walk of shame or whatever else, where, doing the bandana on the head with the Mickey on it, but we didn't quite measure up to others. But it was still fun.
I'm always amazed too at the costumes that people bring with them, and even. Karen's got an awesome pirate costume, and it's stuff that she all put together all herself. But like the boots alone take their own suitcase. It's really, because she's got these great, like really tall boots and the sword and all kinds of other stuff. And so it amazes me with some of the things that I see people with whole families with costumes. I'll start to wonder how much luggage they actually had to bring to have all that stuff with them. But everybody seems to be into it.
I want to ask you some questions about your costumes. So hold that thought there. So if you don't bring your costume with and you still want to partake in it, you're going to get that bandana. They also, I think in the evening, they drop off some gold coins, some chocolate gold coins too, which is kind of cool at the end of the evening. But Karen, where do you get or where have you guys gotten your inspiration to make your costumes? Because I've seen some pictures of them and they're pretty amazing.
Oh, well, thanks a lot for that. Yeah, mine was accumulated over time. Let's see. My shirt that I wear with that, it's kind of just a off-white period looking shirt. So that's something I already own that I would wear occasionally out because it doesn't scream pirate, but I'll just call that free. But a lot of the other stuff was found in thrift stores here and there and everywhere. Just keeping my eyes open for, hey, that'd be great. But those boots, I tell you what, they are very nice. They had to be tremendously expensive, but they were well worn. But if you're a pirate, what difference does that make? What else with the outfit? Oh my gosh, the pirate hat. We live in St. Augustine, so it wasn't very hard to get online and find a store that had a pirate hat. And this thing was fabulous. I mean, the hat, the lace, the red, it's feminine, terrific hat, $10. So it's got to be a bargain or forget it. For Frank,
Yeah. So as I thought about pirates and all that sort of thing, I looked at all the different Disney movies and pirates and things, and unfortunately decided that I most resembled Mr. Smee. So decided to go with that as a costume. So some of it was easy because it's just like, it's a pair of Birkenstock sandals, it's a pair of blue shorts, but and the stocking cap, I just, got online. It's basically, I think, like a Christmas stocking cap, and then the little glasses and that sort of thing. But the shirt was something I was having some trouble finding. So Karen actually made the shirt for me.
Yeah, it wasn't too hard. That, just a white undershirt.
Yeah.
That you wear under a dress shirt.
Right, but you did the striping and everything.
Yeah, that I painted just the right color stripes on.
Yeah.
It wasn't too hard. I wasn't happy with it, but Frank's like, this is awesome. I'm like, thank you, baby. Because it's paint. It's not the most flexible thing, but
it's good. But I like doing the Mr. Smee because I'm usually one of the only ones that have that costume. So that's always kind of fun.
Oh, I added the little sideburns.
You
to the hat.
So the little white sideburns on the hat.
I bought a little bit of, take yourself to the fabric store.
Yeah.
And I bought just a little bit of fur that people somehow sew into clothes. I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
You could cut that out. That would be great. But I just cut little strips of white fur, attached those to the hat, and there he had his sideburns.
Yep.
The best thing is that little kids look at him and they're like, Mr. Smee, and he's like, hi. It's cute. It's totally cute. But then they started thinking I had to be the bad guy.
Captain Hook. Right.
And
you do have a sword.
Yeah. Well, I had a sword. I wasn't, no mustache. The colors were off. But another great thing I did was at the thrift store, I got a leather belt that was woven. And this thing was huge. And I wore it across my shoulder and off my hip and stuck my sword in that, which is pretty cool. It makes it look like is it a halberd or something?
I'm not sure what it's called.
I don't know what it's called, but something that holds your wonderful cutlass, for protecting the ship.
So do you guys kind of play around with those personalities then when you go around the ship? Because I think that's a lot of the fun that I see some people having too. It's almost like, taking on a different persona, being Mr. Smee with the kids.
Yeah. And that's fun. You get to do that a little bit. And I'm trying to think if I've ever had an interaction with the Captain Hook character. I don't think so, but that might be interesting sometime.
Well, I happen to have caught Captain Hook in the elevator more than once. His assistant would ask if Captain Hook would like to board the elevator when I was on it, and he always said yes, so I guess I didn't look too intimidating. But yeah, they'll play it any way you want. And for some reason, Captain Hook travels in the elevator the same time as I do. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. He's quite silent, Captain Hook is. But
so let's kind of turn to just real quick, St. Augustine. That's kind of a hotbed of pirates. Do they have a lot of museums down there? Is that something that they have down there?
There's at least a couple of pirate museums and other places where pirates landed over the years in various places. And, there's the big Spanish fort that's right on the waterfront downtown. And so, yeah, there's a good bit of pirate activity and a lot of pirate related things down there.
They do have a pirate museum there that I think it is called the Pirate Museum, where you can interact. It'd be good for kids and for adults, but you can interact, and there's some hands-on things. How heavy is a cannonball that used to be used? You can draw a sword. You can't lift it completely out, and weld it, and lots of information there about the different pirates and what went on, and interesting for young and old, I would say. Maybe only lasts an hour, though, unless you're really, really into pirates.
We tried to go to a pirate, I think it was Blackbeard, was up near Wilmington, North Carolina, that kind of area. And they had a museum up there, but it was closed when we were there last time. And my kids were really bummed about that. But it looked like it was pretty small, but it would be kind of fun to go to someday. Well, also for the kids, they also have Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique on board the ships, and they do have a thing called the Pirate League.
Mhm.
And we've had a couple of listeners who've come on, and their sons have gone and had the pirate makeover, and I think they do just an amazing job. I don't want to give away some of the things that you get to do after your makeover is done. Keep that a secret for the kids. But have you seen the kids running around that have been made up like that?
Yeah, and I think one of the funniest parts of it is what a detailed job they do with creating facial hair for these little kids. It's really pretty fun to see the stuff that they do.
But they're all individual and they all look great too.
Yeah.
It's not a copycat look for every kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they have some input in that.
If you're interested in doing that for your family, you could also do that as well over at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Well, let's talk about some of the things that they do before dinner, before we actually talk about dinner. Have you guys taken part in any, like some of the trivia or any of the other activities before dinner that they offer?
I think so. I try to remember specifics, but I know they do some pirate-related game shows of all sorts, including trivia and other stuff like that. And generally, those are like in the D Lounge and other places where families can participate in those things. And those are a lot of fun, too.
And I know in the kids clubs, at least the lab and the club, they do some things ahead of time before dinner as well, where they can cut out some different, I can't remember what my son made. He made like a paper sword or something like that at one point, but I'm not sure if they'd still do that now these days or not, but it was kind of cool. He had a good time.
The other thing that they start in the afternoon is they start doing the pirate themed meet and greets. So Captain Jack Sparrow, Captain Hook, Mr. Smee, and those sorts of things. They'll start those up probably early to mid-afternoon. And so those are also in the Navigator so people can see which characters are going to be where and all that sort of stuff.
Well, let's turn to the dinner, unless there's anything else you can think of that I'm missing, Frank.
I don't think so.
This tends to be, I'm not sure exactly why, but a lot of the people that we have on our show come on and they say that the pirate themed dinner is their least favorite. And so I pulled up the menu over on Scott's blog as well, and I'm taking a look at it. And I don't think it looks that bad. I guess I don't think that everybody dislikes it, but people who do dislike it seem to really dislike it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't have a lot of duck. I know that's someone's issue with some of the menus. Yeah, I mean, it has the bread service actually is pretty good. I think they call it Johnny Cakes, but it's basically cornbread, and that stuff's actually pretty good. There's a really good noodle dish that I like. They have like jerk chicken and some other things like that. So I don't know that I'd say it's any better or worse than any of the main dining room menus. But you're right, and I know a lot of people who, for example, say, well, that's whatever night pirate night is, that's when we're going to go to Apollo, or we're going to do something like that. I guess I don't know whether it's just the pirate activities or all the other hullabaloo going on, because I agree with you. I don't think the menu itself is really any better or worse than most of the other menus.
So the servers will dress up a little bit too. They'll kind of have a little bit of fun with the pirate theme as well. Is there something over the years, thinking back, that's changed for the dinner? Did they ever do kind of a show at all, do you know, or has it always just been the dinner?
I think it's always just been that. But the one thing, and I don't know that we actually figured this out until very recently, because it just happened for us on one of our cruises, is if you're in Animator's Palette on Pirate Night, they will show pirate-themed artwork. Some of it is concept art. Some of it is actual finished art from the various pirate movies. And so they'll have stuff from Pirates of the Caribbean, from Peter Pan, from Treasure Planet. And that was really cool. And most of the time, I think, we don't worry too much about what the dining rotation is, what nights when. But it's actually pretty cool to be in Animator's Palette for Pirate Night, because a lot of that stuff is really neat. And like I said, I think some of it is concept art, and some of it was stuff that I had never seen before. So we really enjoyed that.
The level of the quality of the artwork was phenomenal. I'm high level, even things that were just an idea were and not fleshed out completely. The level of quality overall was beyond compare. I took several photos of some of the artwork because I just was struck by how fantastic the images were that I was seeing for the first time.
Yeah, and it's funny because I couldn't remember if I'd ever actually seen Treasure Planet, but it's on Disney Plus now, so we watched it a couple weeks ago, and it's actually not a bad movie.
I've actually never seen that movie. It's myself. But you know what I'm kind of thinking is you're talking about the artwork is in a lot of the staterooms, they have the artwork, and I believe it's Mark Davis who drew it. And do you know what I'm talking about, guys, as far as the pirate stuff? And it's I think it's concept work for Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride. Do you guys know?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's some of the drawings that he did for some of the animatronic figures and things like that were going to be part of that ride. I think if I'm remembering this correctly, initially when they were conceiving for the Pirates of the Caribbean, it was going to be a walkthrough. And then I think that changed over time into, the boat ride and what we know now.
It's kind of interesting when you start putting pieces together because, like, I remember seeing that, and I don't remember which ship it was on, but I remember distinctly having those pictures in our room. And I didn't really understand what they were or what it was. But I mean, this is what Disney is like so good at is the little details and putting things in there that they all have a meaning or they all have a background or they all have a reason why they're there. And I think it was later on, I was looking through a book by Mark Davis and I was like, oh, those are the paintings that are on the wall on the ships.
Right.
So pretty cool. Anything else about dinner that we haven't really touched on? I guess it's kind of fun. The kids menu, they could turn it into a hat. So it turns into kind of like a pirate hat that they can wear. And I know that they're kind of big on those light up like ice cubes. But I think on Pirate Night for the kids, they have something like maybe a light up skull or something that they can put in their drinks.
Yeah, they've had several things over the years. I actually bought one of the cups once. It's the skeleton pirate who's steering the ship in the pirate ride right before you go over the waterfall. And they had that on a souvenir cup. And I just thought it looked really cool. And I bought one of those. But yeah, they have the light up skulls and other stuff like that too.
Karen, do you let him display that cup out?
Actually, it's kind of hidden back in the cabinet, but it is in the living room. It's just back. So you have to search for it, but it's there.
That I am not kidding. I've seen that in like the Art of Disney. They have a painting of that scene and I was like, man, if I would love to have that somewhere, but there's no way my wife would let me put that up in our house.
We worked it into the agreement before we got married. Just kidding. Just kidding.
All right. So we end up with dinner. Dinner gets over and they've kind of changed it up a little bit. And now, at least on the fantasy and the dream sailings that we were on, they kind of split the pirate show up into two different shows now. I remember the first time we saw it was just one show. Before we talk about it kind of specifically, we're not going to go into all the specifics, but over the years, have you guys noticed the show change?
Yeah. And like you said, the other thing was, on some of the cruises we've been on, the show will be between the two dinners. And so they'll do the deck show then. And then the fireworks and the other stuff are later on at night. But I remember some cruises we've been on where everything was later. So I'm not sure how they decide what they do when. Maybe it has to do with what time it gets dark and that sort of thing. But yeah, there have been some changes with that. And I think some of it is been how much emphasis do they have on Mickey and his pals, the pirates, versus Captain Jack Sparrow. And so there's been some, I think, tweaks to that as well over the years.
For me, I think it's really geared toward the age of the person that's watching the show. Because early on, they'll have something more active where if you're a toddler or whatnot, there's more space. Not everybody's packed in there. There's space you can run around on the, not the stage, but that area covering the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's music on, maybe there's Mickey and friends, but you can run around.
Right.
The parents are able to sit down and watch, their child play or dance, which is really cute.
Yeah. And then I think as it gets closer to like the main show and the fireworks, that tends to fill in and get a lot busier at that point.
Well, the one thing that we noticed on our last one, it seemed like they split the show into two almost, where they had, and like I said, I don't want to give away kind of the ending, at least for sure, or how it generally ends, but they had more like the Mickey and Friends in between. So after the first dinner, they had like the Mickey and Friends type of show.
Right.
And then it was after the second dinner where it was more, it's not super edgy or scary or anything like that, but it is more like the Jack Sparrow type show.
Yeah, and it has an animated narrator that's a pirate skull and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a little bit more, I think, for not for the little kids so much. It'd be a little scary for them.
Yeah, it's more intense. The skull is intense.
I think that if that's, and you really have to check the navigator for each one of your sailings. I think that if that going forward is probably a good thing. I know like Christy on our show, or Christy generally, Blake's younger, and so he was never going to make it up for the late night show and then the fireworks and everything like that. So the ability for younger kids who might go to bed earlier, being able to watch that kind of Mickey and Friends show makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think so.
One of the other things that they do, I know, is the kids down in the kids clubs that want to participate. Sometimes they'll have them do in the tween club. They'll have them kind of put together like a dance number, and sometimes they bring them out at the beginning of the show. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, and that's kind of neat too.
Yeah, so it's some fun for the older kids as well. Well, before the shows kind of kick off, once again after dinner, they'll also have. Actually, I'll make sure I'm not saying this right. They generally don't have a theater show that evening, do they? Like they don't have like a Tangled or something like that, right?
No, there's usually something. I mean, there's usually a main show. It like one of the comedians or somebody like that.
Okay, but they're not going to have like the main like Tangled or Frozen. Or something.
No, they don't have one of the big production shows most of the time.
Okay, so they will still have a show in the theater, and then they also will have all different kinds of like, as we were talking about before, more trivia shows. They have some different pirate themed game shows that are family centric that you can go and do as well before the deck show kicks off upstairs. Anything else I'm missing, guys, that you've taken part in that you've had fun with?
I don't think so.
Oh, there's a pirate buffet. There's a little pirate snacks. I called it a buffet, but that's not quite right. There is a pirate buffet of sorts that's very small that's down in the bar.
I think that happens every night. I don't think that's just on Pirate Night.
Oh, I thought that was...
Yeah, there's the big pirate buffet in Cabanas after the fireworks, but that's different.
Well, let's talk about the fireworks a little bit. How have the fireworks changed over time for you guys? Have they gotten better? Have they stayed the same? Or any thoughts on the fireworks?
I mean, I think the fireworks are really good. I'm just amazed that they can do fireworks at sea. I think they just have consistently been really good. I think the big thing is making sure for people to figure out where they're going off, because they go off towards one side of the ship. And so there's certain places where you stand where you won't be able to see them. But generally, both the deck with the stage on it and the deck above are pretty full of people. And as long as you're not under an underhang, so there's something over you that you wouldn't be able to see the fireworks, the views are pretty good. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're behind a tall person or something like that, because they're shooting them up pretty high into the sky. And I think they usually shoot them off towards the starboard side, but I'm not sure that that's 100% true.
So I just learned this, I guess, recently too. They shot them off. They had fireworks twice on some of these cruises that just went on. It was a Star Wars Day at Sea.
Yes.
So on Pirate Night, they shot them off a starboard side, and then on Star Wars Night, they shot them off on the left side, so over on the port side.
And the other thing is there are certain places up on that top deck that they don't let you go because it's sort of the fallout zone for where the fireworks get shot off from. So sometimes you'll see some of the doors blocked off, like you can't come out here, you can't go past this. And that's just because that may be where some of the debris from the fireworks getting shot off may fall. And so they want to keep people safe.
Do you guys have any favorite spots that you guys like to watch the fireworks from?
I think usually we just go up to that deck above where the stage show is, because it tends to be a little bit less crowded. Pretty much anywhere up there is pretty good. I think at least once or twice that I can remember, we've watched them from other places on the ship. Like one time we watched them from deck 4, which is the open deck with the jogging track there. And we just decided we weren't into the crowds that night, and we just went down there. And as long as you're on the correct side of the ship, you'll be able to see them from there. And I think if you have a veranda cabin on the correct side of the ship, you can see them from there as well. And then we have some friends. This didn't happen to us, but they're the people who always go to Palo on Pirate Night. And they actually let them take their dessert outside and watch the fireworks while they had their dessert or their Palo dinner. So apparently you can do that too.
If I were you, Steve, I'd keep that as a super secret. However, you're going to catch a lot of happy viewers if they get that experience, because I heard it's phenomenal. I don't know personally, but I heard it's phenomenal.
The last Pirate Night, I know the kids weren't all that excited about going to watch the show itself because they'd seen it before. And so we went up in front, kind of like in the adult area on the Dream, like where the adult pool area is on the right side, the starboard side. And you could see, we had a really good view there. And there was hardly anybody there because everybody's back behind that forward funnel watching the show. So that was a great place to see it as well.
Yeah, again, as long as you're not somewhere where there's some overhead structure blocking your view, pretty much anywhere outside, you should have a pretty reasonable view of the fireworks.
So once the show gets over, the fireworks end up, a lot of people kind of go their separate ways, but they generally have I know they have a couple different like dance themed sort of disco kind of things for families. And then also for adults, they continue on with some more adult themed shows down in the adult area. But the one thing that I did not know that they had, and I'm going to totally show my naivete, was I did not even realize that they had a pirate buffet. They
do. And I will, full disclosure here, 20 plus cruises, we've never actually eaten at the pirate buffet. So I think we walked through and saw it once, and they have like the ice sculptures and all kinds of cool pirate stuff and things like that. But it is like a madhouse. I mean, you just got, because everybody goes, they're already on deck 11 or whatever deck Cabanas is on. And they all just sort of head in there, and it's like a free for all with people, fighting over turkey legs and whatever else they have there. Plus, the other thing is we usually have late dinner. So, we usually have just finished dinner like an hour ago once the fireworks happen. And at that point, it's like, no, I can't eat any more food at this point.
The last thing on your mind is grabbing one of those turkey legs, huh?
Yeah, it's just, no.
So anything else about Pirate Night that we haven't touched on that you guys can think of as far as some experiences that you've had or noticed or changes over the years?
No, I think the big thing is, and again, I didn't realize this, and a lot of people don't until they go on a cruise, is how many people are really into it. And my suspicion is that there's just all kinds of information out there, whether it's on social media or message boards or things like that. Because I can remember being on cruises where there were a lot of first-time cruisers, and still a lot of them had just gone all out with the pirate outfits and everything. They knew, obviously, ahead of time that this was coming. And so I think it's one of those things where, if you have any interest at all in doing that sort of thing, chances are nobody you know is ever going to see you in your pirate outfit. So you don't have to worry about being embarrassed about that. And it's just a lot of fun because, so many people do participate in it.
Some of the costumes are really period looking and correct.
Yeah.
Down to the tiniest detail. Fabulous, expensive outfit.
And I've seen a couple of Jack Sparrows that looked more like Jack Sparrow than the cast member that was playing him.
So as we kind of finish up here, then I think you hit on a really good point there. And that was something that took us maybe a cruise or two to kind of really appreciate, is that if you let yourself go and just have fun with whether it's the get up there on stage with the family games with your kid or dress up as a pirate and just have fun with it, it really kind of enhances the cruise and makes it a lot more enjoyable. I think a lot of us are kind of, and I'm speaking for myself maybe mainly, is like, you're kind of nervous to do it. You don't want to let yourself go like that. But once you do, you realize how much fun it can really be.
Yeah, it really is.
What's fun about it is you pick your own pirate. Be the pirate you want to be. Space pirate, baseball pirate. What are the baseball teams, baby?
Well, the Pirates, I have some friends that routinely on Pirate Night, when they go on a cruise, they'll wear Tampa Bay Buccaneers football jerseys. And that's their pirate.
That's their pirate. That's their pirate. It works. So don't limit yourself to, be your own pirate.
So I was going to ask this one for you guys too, to kind of finish up. What do you think they should do to maybe change or enhance Pirate Night in the future? And the one thing is, I was asking this and thinking about it, is that with the change in, Big Red in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and now it sounds like they're going to do a spin-off movie of her kind of taking over where Jack Sparrow left off. It'll be interesting to see how they incorporate her into Pirate Night. Any changes you guys would like to see? Or
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it helped me remember something. Some of the best pirate costumes that I've seen have been the cruise directors. And, some of the women cruise directors have some really awesome pirate costumes. Yeah, I think, the Pirate League, we talked about you can go in and get your makeup and everything done. And, that should be for the girls and the boys both. I mean, anybody who wants that sort of thing, that should be fine. I'm not sure because I think that they have sort of hit on something that's pretty popular. And I think I heard there's another Pirates of the Caribbean movie out there in some stage of production at this point. And it just makes sense. I mean, if you look at the name of the pirate party, it's Mickey's Pirates in the Caribbean because that's where the cruises are. So I think they really play off of that as much as they can.
Any thoughts, Karen, on your part?
For me, the cruise directors get help with their costuming. Definitely by whatever pros are back there sewing and putting these things together. So they look great. But the females aren't there to be female. They're there to be a female commander or a female pirate. They're not, they're business and they're doing their thing. And that's that. There's the femininity is there in that they are female. I'm not well-spoken and I am so sorry, but that's.
Yeah. So it's not like, well, if you're a girl, you have to be like a pirate wench or something like that.
They are not pirate wenches. No, I don't like that word, but they're there to command.
Yeah.
And their outfits represent that.
I wonder if someday, we have Captain Minnie now. Maybe we'll have Pirate Captain Minnie. That would be cool.
And I think that's where I kind of was going with that with Big Red. And am I saying her name right? I think that's what they call her.
It's that, or
I thought it was just Red, but I don't know.
Yeah, or the redhead or something. I don't know for sure.
Maybe that's evolving too. What she's referred to on.
It'll be interesting to see, but I'm with you, Karen, as far as like just I think that's where they're going with her, and definitely she commands a presence in that scene. And with Captain Minnie now, I think that they could have a lot of fun with that, and something that would be appreciated for the boys and the girls alike.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be a pirate, right?
Definitely. Well, as we kind of get out of here tonight, I'd like to, I normally ask what's next for you guys, but I think we're all kind of stuck in the same boat, or not on the boat, I should say.
Yeah, I think, we've had a couple of cruises canceled this year. Our next one that we're hoping will go is next April. And then they released, I'm sure people know Disney Cruise released the fall sailings for next year. And so we booked the Canada New England cruise. We were supposed to go on that one this year, actually in October, but that's been canceled. So we're hoping to be able to do that one next year.
I really hope they bring some more of those back. As far as I really like that itinerary, and I know it didn't fill up from like listening to people talk about it, but the one where it went all the way up to Quebec City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the cruise that goes leaves New York for me and goes up to Canada. Those are phenomenally beautiful. Love it.
So you guys have done that one before? I totally drawn a blank.
Yeah, we did that 2 or 3 years ago, and that was really a great cruise. I mean, just sailing out down the river past all of Lower Manhattan and the Statue of Liberty and all that stuff is just really cool, and we really enjoyed that. It's funny, we do the Caribbean cruises and we really love those because we like a lot of the things that we do with the snorkeling and all that sort of stuff. But that's something that's really different for us. It's nice to go somewhere that's not super hot because it's still pretty warm here even in September and October. So it's nice to get a little bit of the cool breeze and fall color and those kinds of things.
Beautiful.
Well, we're kind of turning into that. I was noticing the leaves kind of starting to die out here a little bit. It's not quite, they're not turning yet or anything like that, but we're kind of getting towards that time frame. So I hope that this time next year, you guys will be getting prepared to make that sailing.
Yeah, I hope so, because right now we're still in the 90s for temperature and humidity. So that's Florida.
Well, Frank, Karen, I really appreciate all you guys do for our show. Thank you so much for coming on and helping me talk about Pirate Night a little bit today. And hopefully we will see you guys out there sailing soon on another Disney cruise.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Sail on, sailor.
All right. All the best, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Frank and Karen for coming on and sharing their experiences as they celebrate Pirate Night on board the Disney Cruise Line ships with our DCL 101 series. And obviously, as the show comes out in October 2020, things are a little bit different. The ships aren't sailing right now. And when they do start sailing, Pirate Night may look a lot different than what we talked about in this episode. So we'll just have to wait and see with social distancing rules and some of the other things as to how it transforms itself. So, but it was fun to look back with him and talk about just the way Pirate Night has been and probably will be eventually in the future again. In addition to our 101 series, we will begin, as soon as the ships start sailing, we will be bringing you our 201 series, which is a little bit more advanced planning as far as sailing with Disney Cruise Line. And I want to throw a chip out there. We have teamed up with Brian and Sam over at the DCL Duo. Brian's really put together some fun DCL 101 video vlogs over on his YouTube channel, talking about several different topics as well. We've been on a couple of the shows, and some other guests have done so as well. So if you want some more additional content on DCL 101 type series, you can go over to their YouTube channel, the DCL Duo. In addition, we've teamed up with Brian and Sam and Derek and Doug over at Rope Drop Radio to bring you the Turkey Lurkey 5K coming up this Thanksgiving. A virtual 5K to get all of us out there who are interested in running. I know there's a lot of people in our community who listen to these different podcasts and everything like that are big runners, so kind of an opportunity for all of us before we indulge in that turkey dinner or whatever kind of Thanksgiving dinner you might be having this year. Just a chance to get out and kind of share our stories on social media and have a little bit of fun together. If you would like to support our show, you can do so via our Patreon program. You can go over to dcl.com/Patreon. Excuse me, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast, and you can find all the information there. We appreciate each and every one of our Patreon members. They help bring these shows to you each and every week, so we definitely do appreciate it. Well, between now and our next show, if you are heading out on some kind of vacation, a staycation, or just dreaming about being back on the seas, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we'd like to wish you all the best out there. Be well, take care of your families, have fun, and we'll see you next time with the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.